Zhang Ailing's Glazed Tiles. Should parents control their children's marriage? Glazed Tiles is a satirical novel written by Zhang Ailing. It still writes about women, but the core is a Chinese-style family dilemma. Among Zhang Ailing's many masterpieces, Glazed Tiles is often overlooked due to its limited subject matter and layout. But in fact, Glazed Tiles is a very mature realistic work by Eileen Chang. As a novel with a traditional family as its theme, Glazed Tiles shows the conflict between traditional parents and children on marriage and love, restores the Chinese-style family dilemma that has troubled generations, and tears apart the millennium-old patriarchal society of Fig Leaf. In this novel, Zhang Ailing also brings her satirical art to the extreme. The novel Glazed Tiles is not long. It tells the story of Mr. Yao and Mrs. Yao choosing a husband for their daughter. Zhang Ailing's humorous art is fully reflected in the opening chapter of the novel. Mr. Yao has a prolific wife who gives birth to all kinds of children. Relatives and friends joked with Mr. Yao and called his wife Wei Yao based on the saying Nongzhang Nong Tile. But Mr. Yao has his own opinion on the fact of giving birth to a girl. He said, "Our tiles are beautiful tiles, and cannot be generalized to ordinary tiles. Ours are glazed tiles." Mr. Yao is the representative of the small bourgeoisie in Zhang Ailing's works. The Yao family is a typical well-off family in the society. The family has a little property left by the ancestors. Mr. Yao works as the director of the advertising department of a printing company. Of course, the Yao family is not a wealthy family. After Mrs. Yao gave birth to 7 daughters one after another, Mr. Yao's monthly salary was only enough to subsidize part of the family's expenses. In the traditional view, daughters are losers, but Mr. Yao believes that beautiful daughters are never such an exception. Moreover, he very thoughtfully began to plan the future for the daughters of the family, who were more beautiful than the last. Underneath the tired family and the irreconcilable conflicts between father and daughter, it is actually an inquiry into the nature of marriage. The main contradiction in the novel is the contradiction between Mr. Yao and his 3 daughters Jingjing, Cook and Xinshin. And the contradiction stems from Mr. Yao's absolute authority in his daughter's marriage. First of all, based on the balance between economic and social status, Mr. Yao insisted on quietly marrying his eldest daughter to Liu Qikui, the only son of the shareholder of the printing factory. But in the eyes of Jingjing, who is well-educated, Liu Qikui has nothing outstanding in academic qualifications. However, Mr. Yao repeatedly threatened and induced his daughter to get married, and even said, "If you ever have any trouble in the future, just come to me." Ironically, Mr. Yao's submissive flattery only resulted in his son-in-law's secret contempt and ridicule, and his daughter's alienation from her natal family. In the end, Mr. Yao failed to cling to his in-laws and ended up resigning out of anger. Because his eldest daughter's marriage was unsatisfactory, Mr. Yao became discouraged and said that he would not care about his daughter's marriages from now on. However, in the blink of an eye, he recommended his second daughter, Cook, to be a female secretary in a large agency. The reason was Cook has a strong personality and is difficult to control. Mr. Yao plans to take advantage of the situation and let her have more contact with young talents in large organizations and develop a high-quality target. But this time, Mr. Yao was self-defeating. He didn't expect that in a large unit full of talents, Cuckoo chose Wang Junye, the third-class secretary, and ended up causing uproar in the city. Mr. Yao was worried that Cook would influence his other daughters, so he had no choice but to arrange their marriage and paid a lot of money into it. It can be said that he lost his daughter and lost his money. The 2 marriages of his eldest daughter and his second daughter frustrated Mr. Yao a lot, so he placed his hope in the heart of his well-behaved third daughter. Xin was shy and unsociable, so Mr. Yao took great pains to find Chen Liangdong, the son of a wealthy businessman in Hangzhou, for her. But unexpectedly, something went wrong on the blind date. Xin recognized the wrong blind date, and instead of meeting Chen Liangdong's eyes, she accidentally fell in love with the young man sitting next to her, Chang Husen. 3 carefully planned plans came to nothing. Not only did he not find good relatives, Mr. Yao also became seriously ill because of this. While Mr. Yao was ill, the eldest daughter Jingjing ran to her parents' house to cry because her husband had cheated on her. This unexpected episode was extremely ironic and embarrassed both Mr. and Mrs. Yao. Through the marriage farce of 3 daughters of the Yao family, Zhang Ailing reveals the most unspeakable contradiction between parents and children in marriage and love in Chinese-style families. Is marriage a combination of feelings or a family choice? It satirizes the traditional concept of family status and criticizes the vanity and abnormal view of marriage and love of the small citizens. Since feudal society, marriage between men and women has always been based on the right match, the words of parents, and the agreement of the matchmaker. In traditional societies where marriage and love are not free, the quality of family status has always been regarded as a cornerstone of marriage. On the surface, Mr. Yao's careful selection of son-in-laws for his 3 daughters is a reflection of traditional marriage values based on the concept of family status. Considering the era in which Mr. Yao lived, it is understandable that this feudal thought extended to him. But if you look closely at the words well-matched, the facts are horrifying. We mentioned earlier that the Yao family was at best a well-off family in the society at that time. However, if we take a closer look at the few good son-in-law that Mr. Yao admired, they included the son of the major shareholder of the printing factory, the leader of the government agency, and the legitimate son of a wealthy businessman in Hangzhou. Anyone selected among these people is either a wealthy person in society or a powerful figure. It can be seen from this that the Yao family is not pursuing the so-called right match, but is bent on climbing high. The humbleness of the Yao family due to clinging can be seen in many details. After Jingjing married into the Liu family, Mr. Yao bought his daughter a generous dowry of 30,000 yuan. But the real reason behind the lavishness was that since the other party is such a wealthy family, they really can't afford anything less. After Jingjing brought her husband back home, Mr. Yao did not dare to act like an elder in the face of his son-in-law's rudeness. Behind all the blind kindness, Mr. Yao's vanity is actually at work. He hopes to gain career development through his daughter's marriage. In Mr. Yao's view, his daughter's marriage is a business, essentially an exchange of interests. This creates a funny situation where the daughter chooses her mate in the open and the parents choose their son-in-law secretly. Mr. Yao has always regarded money and background as the 2 hardcore criteria for choosing a son-in-law, but he has ignored the troubles caused by this gap in family status to his daughters. Not long after Jingjing got married, her husband questioned, "Some people say that your father married you into my family for the sake of his career development." This kind of naked questioning and sarcasm directly led to Jingjing's breakup with her mother's family. The relationship between them also paved the way for the subsequent breakdown of their relationship. In addition, marriages under this kind of family background have attracted widespread criticism. Even the second daughter, Kook, used this matter to silence Mr. Yao. "Dad, please stop meddling in my business. Don't let people talk about you using your daughter to curry favor with others. It's another excuse." Zhang Ailing used Kook's words to satirize the small citizens in society who blindly follow the dragon and the phoenix, and sacrifice their children's marriage happiness for the sake of practical interests, and vividly express their vanity and appearance of being ugly. While criticizing the harm of arranged marriage, he also criticized the social ills of preferring sons over daughters. In Glazed Tiles, on the surface, Mr. Yao is the main tragic object created by Zhang Ailing. He arranged all the arrangements for the marriage of his daughters and worked hard, but in the end it was all in vain. But in fact, women are the tragic core of this novel. Among Mr. Yao's 3 daughters, Jingjing was the first victim of an arranged marriage. She was an intellectual woman with both talent and beauty, and a good education. She also had her own unique vision and insights in choosing a spouse. However, she did not stick to her own ideas in the end and married the person designated by her father. After marrying into a wealthy family from a small family, Jingjing was not happy. On the one hand, he and Liu Qikui had no emotional foundation. On the other hand, Liu Qikui believed that she only wanted to make money when she married into the Liu family. Although this was just Mr. Yao's unilateral idea, it invisibly put tremendous pressure on Jingjing at her husband's house. In order not to be criticized, Jingjing had no choice but to distance herself from her Natal family. In fact, after marrying his first daughter, Mr. Yao should have realized something because of his alienation. But he insisted on going his own way and continued to pursue his own interests at the expense of ignoring his daughter's emotions. When his second daughter, Kook, turned against her father because of obstacles to free marriage, Mr. Yao inflicted this harm on his third daughter, Xinshin. Mr. Yao tried his best to arrange a blind date for Chen Liangdong, a son of a wealthy businessman. But from beginning to end, he only thought about how to cover up his daughter's flaws and how to deal with her uncle. He completely ignored his daughter's feelings and just regarded her as a daughter, goods for sale on the shelf. When Xinshin expressed dissatisfaction with Chen Liangdong's appearance, Mr. Yao directly pointed at her and scolded, "People don't rely on their face to make a living. No matter how ugly they are, they still have face no matter where they go. Don't think that just because you have more regular features, you have the right to find fault with someone else's facial features." It can also be seen from this that the equality in the Yao family's attitude towards men and women is nothing but false equality. Although Mr. Yao went against the traditional concept and never regarded his daughters as a burden to the family, he also advocated equality between men and women and sent his daughters to school and work. But in fact, Mr. Yao's equality is not out of consciousness, but out of his shrewdness. Therefore, in the face of the resistance of his second daughter Kook, Mr. Yao said to his wife, "If you marry her to Cheng Husen, if you give me more daughters in the future, I will drown each one you raise." It's still a countryman's way. In Mr. Yao's view, the only value of his daughter is reflected in the benefits of marriage. In a feudal era where men controlled the right to speak in society, this kind of patriarchal oppression was actually the source of most women's marital tragedies. Of course, in modern society, this extreme patriarchal oppression no longer exists, but there are still countless modern women who are confused by this question. "My parents think it is suitable, but I don't like it. Should I marry such a person?" In the novel, Zhang Ailing uses the marriages of Jingjing and Kook respectively to answer the question. What do you think?
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.